Well, we all know that Zillow kind of messed things up just a little bit, but how bad was it and what could they have done differently? Joining me today, Alladdine Gueddar is here from Acropolis. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, man.
All right, so Zillow. What went wrong?
Well,
buy high, sell low. That's not how it's supposed to work, is it?
that is true. Indeed, that's not how to have a profitable business.
You can do that, but you won't make any money.
Exactly. Not not for very long. So so I think Zillow obviously is an internet real estate internet platform.
Right.
And that's what they've been known for. Their CEO, Rich Barton, was a co-founder on an internet company, Glassdoor. Also sits on the board of Netflix. So he comes from typically a tech background.
Interesting.
So Zillow has been running into a slow growth problem, which obviously is very, very bad if you're running anything that's tech related.
Right.
So they had the clever idea, or at least maybe he did, that they wanted to launch into an iBuying program. In one of their calls, the CEO talked about how they can possibly start buying homes, renovating them, and selling them to buyers. One of the big key words in the tech world or in the hyper growth companies is TAM, which is the total adjustable market. So they obviously real estate it's huge in the United States. There's so many markets. Yeah. So they thought, okay, well we have this huge TAM that we're going to go after. Little that he didn't know was that going in and starting to flip homes involved taking huge amounts of risks, which they were not ready for. It's a business that operates on somewhat of lower margins compared to post-financial crisis. And low margins means equals is low, you have to make
low room for error.
Low room for error, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I know what that means.
Yeah. So going into it, he basically, they went in, they ramped up, hired all these people, started to make offers on homes. And then the other element that was missed is that now they have to predict prices of homes 6 months from now. When you're ramping up a business and you're in all these multiple markets and you don't know all the nuances and the niches of every market, then you run into problems.
Immediately there's got to be a certain amount of decay, right, in your profit potential because you don't know those nuances. You're going to sell some properties for too little,
yep,
right, or whatever, or you're not going to maybe get full market on some of them, and some of them you're going to expect too much out of. And adding those two together is a big immediate delta loss in this low margin environment. So, so basically they didn't know what they're doing. Now, you wonder, why would a company take chances like this? Say, oh, hey, they're behind on their growth curve. They needed growth. So this is something that's very interesting. I think everyone should pay attention to this. When you invest in a company, know what it is. People think Zillow is a website. No, it's a tech company. It's a tech company that's in real estate. There's other tech companies in real estate projecting tons of growth. They're behind, right? They're not really making a ton of money, although you see the valuation of the company going up, right? Because of certain possibilities. The TAM you're speaking about, the data, how can they take big data, access this, ramp things up? So they basically just threw a Hail Mary, is what it sounds like. Like, hey, we need to do something, let's just do it. If it doesn't work out, we'll apologize and figure something else.
And the CEO himself called it, in a soft way, he's calling it a gamble, and that some of his advisory boards told him, hey, we told you so, this is not going to work. So nonetheless, what I really was a little bit kind of concerned and somewhat saddened by is that they had to lay off 25% of their workforce, and these are 25% of the entire workforce that people were working towards these goals and setting everything up, and they're doing that in an environment where obviously there's a huge demand for employees. I mean, we have a shortage of. And here's you have one of the behemoths in real estate laying off 25% of the people.
It's really sad too because real estate's doing well.
Exactly.
estate market is good.
Yeah, exactly.
And you guys have to lay people off.
It is.
That stinks.
Is very unfortunate.
A lot of people were looking at this and sort of assuming that it meant, okay, well, this means they're selling. The reason they're getting out is because they believe the market is about to correct. And so that's their real big reasoning behind this. It's not because they messed anything up or they didn't enter properly or they're not exiting properly. They don't have, I think they said at one point, Zillow issued a statement saying we don't have the operational capacity to deal with this. It was something that they said initially when they were shutting the program down, and of course found out through conference calls and things later, there was more to it than that. Maybe that was part of it, but there was more to it than that. And so, but it did send a signal to people that, hey, maybe this is the top of the real estate market.
It did, and we've frankly read a few articles about that. I think that was at the beginning where they're trying to project into their investor, mostly to their larger pools of investors and Wall Street, Wall Street analysts. But in reality, they just messed up. I mean, in plain simple language, they misunderstood a business. They thought they could just take that into what they're doing and obviously grow into it with the TAM. As a matter of fact, they thought it was wasn't going to require as much capital, but then through the quarters you could see that looking at their financials that part of the business was taking on more and more capital because of all the overruns with the construction that's involved.
Yeah.
Every sub-market, let's just say, for example, here in San Diego, there's areas of properties that are known to have, cracked foundations. So you go into these areas, let's say Zillow, you purchase a home, and the cost to fix a foundation can range from, $10,000 to even $50,000. Wow. So take that and scale that. If you're buying 100 and 200 homes, and the same problem, by the way, happens in Texas. There's some areas of Texas that are just notoriously known for these same problems. And how do you scale something like that? How do you know exactly what do you need to go into a home and how much you have to put in? And we're not talking here the cosmetics of light fixtures and flooring and kitchen cabinets. Here we're talking, okay, we have to inject the slab with an extra foam. We have to do extra pinnings on these corners. And you don't know that until you're in full, what I call reverse engineering of the project. So it's kind of like in the middle of a surgery. Mm-hmm. To really just think that one can just do that and execute it with near perfection and a mass scale, it was really foolish.
Was it a fool's errand?
It was pretty much a fool. Yeah, it was very foolish.
Is there no way to scale this business? I mean, you're in it. So I mean, can you scale nationwide a business like this, a business model like this?
I think the answer to that would be yes.
You can.
You can scale it. However, there's a big however and but, and that would be that it has to be done in a very slow approach, in a very slow manner. I would rather call it more systematic. And the reason being is it can be done obviously with the investment in artificial intelligence and learning and all the robots and all this stuff. I'm not sure we're going to have the next construction robot in the next 5 years doing a job site, but at least learning about the markets can be done with AI. But it's just going to take a long time to gather all that data. I don't think that data is all available yet. And the reason that is that you have companies, you have all these brokerages that all have their sub markets or their niche markets, and they've been working it for a long time, 20-some, 30-some years. So they know all the nuances, all the areas, all the pockets, the variances of value when it comes to their markets. So if somehow one of the bigger behemoths of real estate is able to gather all that information and put that into some kind of a systematic way of learning from it and adjusting to value, then they would that would probably work. But I think many tech companies, or everybody's been, I would say, salivating even at how do we take the real estate market and disrupt it. And obviously there's all these sub-layers and different aspects from title, escrow, and so forth and so on. and I don't think it has been figured out. It would eventually, but it'll take some time.
It's so nuanced.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. A lot of people, like in my industry and on the lending side, will say, they're like, oh, they're gonna, computers are gonna take over our job. I don't think so. I don't think so, because people really do need a loving touch, and that comes from. And that's why I think that realtors are in the same boat, where while there is commission compression, while the pie may be getting smaller, you are still going to need real human beings to walk people through something like this, especially through the different options and explaining how it all works and things like that. Order takers may get replaced, but people who provide real value and service, I think, are safe. That said, it seems to me that it's impossible to scale something like that nationwide. Any kind of investment that's geographically oriented would seem to me to be very difficult to scale because of those nuances. Hey, when you're on this side of the street, you're in a different schools district.
Exactly.
It's a different view. So there's $100,000 difference across the street, and you can get that in San Diego. It's going to be hard for AI to pick that up. It just is.
It's very, and again, we're in the one of the top markets in the United States. Probably, if I was to guess, maybe the top 20 markets, if not the top 10 markets of the United States. Given also the topography of San Diego, with the different elevations, being a coastal town, having different climates, all that plays into affecting the value of properties, and also what goes into if you're renovating a property. I think a couple other companies, such as Open Door and Redfin, went into markets where the homes are more what you would call cookie cutter. They're just they're just replicated on just the track homes, and coming in there and knowing, okay, we're going to put into this much into a property. Here's what we're buying them. Of course, the margins of those properties are much lower. I mean, they're just doing them to turn and learn.
The cards are face up on the table, right?
Yeah.
In that kind of environment, so everybody knows what's what.
And it worked. They've started experimenting with that. I believe Open Door did that a little bit in Arizona. They were early adopters in Arizona, somewhere around 2018, 17, I believe. And it was pretty neat, for people to go with the app, go in to view a home, and see what.
They're huge in Arizona.
Yeah,
right now. Huge. Which is interesting that we don't see more of that happening here. I think maybe they're taking that slower approach that you were discussing.
Well, yeah, maybe there was a little bit of FOMO from Zillow, and they saw how successful was Open Door doing that in that market, and they say, hey, we're the big guys with the big bucks. We're going to go do it in bigger markets like San Diego, and they kind of just took it in their face. Maybe somewhere along the lines, those discussions were being had in their boardrooms.
Someone had to have advised the decision makers there that this was not going to work.
Yeah.
And they just said, listen, we have to try something. And I think that's one of the things that's difficult about being a publicly traded company. You do have to, in some cases, you have to say, listen, we've got to try something that's sexy, that we can put out there, that gets our name in the news, that gets the stock being talked about on CNBC.
Yeah.
We've got to do something. And they have been struggling to grow because their business model is sort of based on more of a recurring revenue structure, as opposed to like a growth service or product structure, which is just a totally different way to run a business. Not a bad way, but if you're tech and you need growth, and that's what you're there for. That's why you're the CEO. Hey, we brought you in to grow the company. Well, I have to try. I have to take a swing, don't I, before you guys fire me? So I think that could be part of it. Here's a big question for you. Imagine, okay, and you have no choice to dissent on this. You work for Zillow, and they said, hey, all right, Alladdine, you're going to be the guy. You're going to run this project, this home buying and flipping project.
Right.
What would you have done differently if you had to do it? You couldn't say, no, this is a bad idea.
I would pick a market that you can that have less variances in value.
Okay.
All right. So I'm just going to take less discrepancies, just calling it variances. So I would go in somewhere where, okay, I have decent absorption. I have a decent amount of absorption, where it means I'm not just buying 100 homes and they're going to sit for a year and I'm going to be twirling my thumb before I can sell them. There's a decent amount of people coming in, and I'm also there's not a lot of change between these homes. They're all, they're all located, whatever it's a desert town or it's a green foresty town. The homes more look-alike, similar parcels, and do it there. And this has been successfully done in parts of Utah. Currently being done in areas of South Carolina, which these are all both, particularly South Carolina is experiencing tremendous amount of growth. Towns like Greenville, because of all newer factories, new people coming into work, and you have all these homes that are from the 30s, the 40s, and so on.
Yeah.
And I think it can be done. It's just that you just have to do it and be patient and do it at a small scale and learn from it, and then move on to another area, identify maybe another, Alabama, whatever other states and other particular pockets, and just do it. But when you're a multi-billion-dollar company, the issue has been the reason why I feel like at least my guess why they had to can this whole thing out was is the variability in earnings. So by doing a flip business, if you're losing money 1 quarter in, 1 quarter out, even if you're making it up the following quarter, your investor is going to start walking away because 3 quarters and you have you're not you can't say, look, we're losing money because we're putting capital into R&D. You can't say that.
Right.
You're in here. Okay. What are you doing? Are you building homes? Are you selling them? Are you taking them a loss? So investors start walking away. Exactly. So we're talking $1 billion of valuations lost. So really, they couldn't take that gamble of having those ups and downs in their earnings.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I think that if you're on such a short leash, I mean, what a tough business to have to try to churn growth out of. Yeah. Especially when the market's this hot. A lot of people don't realize that a hot market is typically not that great if a market stays hot for a long period of time for an investor or flippers. It's very, very difficult because now all of a sudden, when the low inventory environment, there's first-time buyers who are like, we want to buy that house and fix it up ourselves. We can't find anything. So we're willing to go and buy this fixer and borrow money from mom and dad and pay way up more than an investor can because we're going to live here. We'll fix it up over time. We'll do things like that. When there's less inventory in general, there's less inventory for everybody, including the investor who has to sift through typically a lot of homes. I think, let me ask you this question off the top of your head. How many homes do you think you offer on before you actually get one? Or how many homes you look at before you actually get one?
We look at typically about 15 homes.
Okay.
Before we get one.
I bet you the Zillow's number was way less than that.
Way less.
I bet it was like 4 or 5, 3 maybe.
They blasted everything and wait for the sellers to come to accept, and then whatever they accept, they buy.
Yeah.
They have a very small contingency that they put in where they go back and if they find something, then they do a marginal price adjustment, but it's very marginal. Again, they banked on the scale, and they did it way too fast.
Yeah.
They went into it way too fast, not really doing all the due diligence with buying a home and getting it at the right price. And of course, so if you're buying a property, so you could be good at a few things, right? So you could be very good at getting it at the right price now compared to what it's worth currently. Or you can be very good at knowing what is it going to be worth in 6 months, which means you could be a little more generous now if you have the data that's telling you it's going to be worth more, 15% more in 6 months. They didn't have neither. They didn't have the ability to predict the 6 month nor the ability to get the prices at the right price now. So therefore, that's why they kind of had a failure with.
I knew that something was up and that they were in trouble when actual homeowners were telling me, like, hey, this is what Zillow said I can get for my home, and then an agent told me it's going to be way less than that. Way less. In some cases, 60, 80, 100,000.
100%.
So that for me was like, and they're an investor. They definitely shouldn't be paying over market value. I mean,
yeah.
Right at market value would still be an eye turner a little bit, a head turner, but over market? That's crazy.
It was, yeah, it's been, and you do it on a mass scale, and San Diego home prices, the medians are, you blinked last year, it was in the 600s, now we're in the median home prices is in the low 700s.
Yeah.
So it's rather incredible with those margins of errors. It's not going to be very long before you're out. Funny story is one of the this Wall Street investor named Steven Eisenman. He's known to be a short. He does a lot of shorts. So,
okay.
and he hasn't been very successful. His biggest short, I believe, was the during the Great Financial Crisis,
Okay.
and he was on that movie Big Short. He was
Okay.
one of the guys, not Michael Burry, the other gentleman. So after that, he basically really failed. He was one of the shorts on Tesla, and that he failed miserably on that.
Oh, so much pain.
In 2019, I think late 2019, they had asked him, okay, what are you shorting now? And he said it was Zillow. And he exactly said the reason why he was shorting it was because they decided to get into this home flipping business, and he thought this was their demise. This was basically what's going to put them out of business. Now, of course, we had the pandemic and the huge spurt, so I'm sure he was hurting for a while. But I bet hopefully he was able to profit.
Plus he got
when
margin call on
yeah,
that thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure exactly whatever happened with what he did, but he was correct. That's exactly what he had predicted.
And shorting anything is a really, really tough thing to
Terrible.
do.
Yeah.
You have unlimited downside,
Exactly.
unlimited upside. It's just not really a
not
sexy
very
thing.
not very sexy at all.
No, but when you look at the opportunity in real estate, I agree with you. I think the biggest mistake that Zillow made was they tried to go too big too quickly. Talk to anyone who's an investor who's flipped homes and made money and put food on the table with that money. They'll tell you, you're going to make mistakes. Your first few, you're going to learn some things. You're probably going to lose money. So now add that on scale. Your first run at this isn't going to go very well. Know that. So make it small. Learn the kinks, get those things figured out, then scale. Don't just say, we're scaling. Push the buy button. Buy. I mean, they were just like, they must have had a quota, dude. I don't know how they must be like, hey, we have to buy 100 homes a week regardless. Like, there must have been something like that going on. Why else would they be paying so far over market value? I mean, they left so much money on the table. Kudos to every single homeowner who sold their home to Zillow. You did good.
Kudos to them. I mean, that's great.
That's the winner.
It's great for the homeowners. And again, that's again, I agree with you there, and you're 100% right. Is that having these quotas of we got to buy 100, 250 homes, and again, it's back to what we're talking about coming from a tech company.
Yeah.
They're looking at user growth. Oh, we have to sign up 200 users, and we know the first year of these users, we're not going to make any money on them. But the next year, we're going to bump them up to a couple $100 or whatever a month. Mm-hmm. And that's where we make our money. And then now you're making a capital investment of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you have to buy this. So you're basically investing this funds to buy these homes, and you think you're going to be able to nurse them out and turn them into a profit. So they basically just completely did something totally not tangible to what their real business was, which was providing the Zestimate. I don't even know what that Zestimate worked for them, or were they using the Zestimate?
Clearly not. I mean, that's all we know.
So
it didn't work.
Didn't work. From a lead generating business to putting agents on the face of their website to now they're buying homes and doing different things. I mean, I can only imagine what kind of mess it was and what discussions were going on.
Disaster.
Disaster, right?
It was a disaster. Just a disaster. Well, I appreciate your insight on it, Alladdine. Thank you so much for coming in. It's great to see you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Hey, guys, share this video with your friends. Let's help make them smarter than everyone else. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.